What are some green flags in a relationship? When you have a relationship difficulty, but you both address it as us against the problem as opposed to me versus you. Always asking about you, wanting to include you in their life/meet their friends, following through in small promises. When you do something that annoys, inconveniences, or insults them without realizing it, they tell you about it and ask that you not do it again. On the flip side, when they do something like that to you, and you tell them about it, they apologize and accept that they were wrong. When my SO and I were first dating, as in not dating at all but just playing with the idea, someone tried breaking into my apartment. It wasn't anything major, just hear them doing things to my door and trying to get in. They gave up pretty quickly. But I was a young girl alone at 4 AM and someone had just tried to get into my apartment. I tried calling a couple friends but no answer, so I was like, freak it, I need someone, and I called my then new beau. He answered immediately. It was 4 AM, and he had to work the next day, but he answered immediately. And he made no complaints. He just sat on the phone with me for an hour, helping me calm down. He even offered to come by. That willingness to be there for me, even though it was inconvenient for him, was a big contributor to my deciding to date him. When I was doing dishes after dinner, he came and stood next to me and picked up a dish towel and kept talking. I looked at him and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Drying dishes." In my 12 years of marriage, my ex had never dried a dish. I honestly had no idea what he was going to do. Had been on 2 dates with this gal and got really sick and had to cancel date 3. I was laying on my couch when I got a knock at the door. Homemade soup, tea, and red box. She was really awesome. My husband falls asleep very quickly. I don't. One night in the early days of our relationship, he was asleep on his back and I was awake on my side, facing towards him. All of a sudden he rests his elbow hard on my hip and puts his hand up with his palm facing out, like maybe he was waving hi to someone in a dream or something like that. But his elbow really hurt in my hip, so I had to wake him up to get him to stop. I asked, "Did you wave hello to someone in a dream?" "No," he replied, "I was airbending." The fact that he felt comfortable enough with me that early in our relationship to tell me he was airbending in a dream was a big green neon sign to me. The first time I went over to my wife's house, she started by warning me that her dog was adopted from a shelter and is usually pretty skittish or even aggressive around men for some reason. Dog was in my lap trying to lick me before the sentence was finished. I think that won me lots of points. When I met my boyfriend, one of the first times we hung out, we had to go somewhere. We stopped at the auto supply store to pick something up. He noticed an elderly man with a purple heart on his hat struggling to put oil in his car. Not even a second passed. He stepped up, told the man to take a seat in his car, put the oil in, and sat beside him and spoke with him for about 10 minutes. The man then tried to offer money, but my future boyfriend told him he didn't want or need it, and the opportunity to speak with him was enough. He's always been very kind, gentle, polite, and respectful, never asking for anything in return. When you see people putting others first, it leaves a mark on who they are as a person. It's surely a green flag. He spoils me rotten and does little things regularly to show he cares. Of course, I do the same in return. My current SO really impressed me one of the first times we found ourselves in a mild conflict. It went something like this. Me, "Hey, you seem kind of upset about something. Is everything okay?" To be honest, I'm a little annoyed with you, but I'm still trying to process it out in my mind before I feel comfortable talking about it. Can we check back in an hour or 2? Me, "Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, thanks for being honest with me." Sure. I mean, it's not really fair for me to say I'm fine when I'm not, but I just need a little more space before we pick it up again. I shouldn't have to be amazed when adults communicate maturely, but compared to my past partners, this exchange was so incredibly refreshing. It was just one green flag out of many, and whenever we argue, it's very respectful and focused on the issue or the action, and not the person. When they help you out, when you're sick and genuinely care about your well-being. I remember one day with an ex, and we were getting it on in the shower, then I got sick, later found out it was from food poisoning, and started vomiting vehemently. There I was, bent over the toilet puking my brains out naked with her patting my back and just being there for me. I ended up getting pretty sick, yet she called into her work and said she couldn't make it and stayed with me the whole day, giving cuddles and making soup for my sick ass. She took care of my cat and even spent the night to make sure nothing happened. That was a little overboard, of course. Nothing bad was going to happen, yet she cared tremendously about how I was feeling and made sure I was alright. She was one of those people who will constantly check up on you, no matter how little the problem, because she actually cared. Other girls I dated, I know they wouldn't have stayed with me, and I doubt they could kept a relationship going after seeing me puking naked with a raging boner. She was a really great person. I was with a girl for 3 years. When we slept together she would wake me up every time my snoring woke her up. We eventually broke up, and I started dating my current girlfriend a few months after. Within the second week or so of dating she wanted me to sleep over. I was embarrassed because of how it was with my ex, so I warned her of my snoring. The next day she wanted to show me something she bought. Earplugs. That was my green flag. Effort even for little stupid things. When I met my wife I brought her a flower for our first real date. Hid it in my bag and surprised her with it. Without missing a beat she reached into her bag and presented me with the present too. Chapstick. Half-used chapstick. She had nothing and still went for it anyway. I like long-running gags and puns that lead into more puns and on and on. My wife is horrible at this kind of thing, but she always tries, and it is always just the worst. Quite endearing. And don't discount joy. When I proposed I had to wait 5 minutes for an answer because she couldn't talk. She just laughed and smiled and laughed and hugged and laughed and tried the ring on and laughed. That she would say yes was already a given, but when the time came it was such a surprise and a shock that she couldn't stop laughing. To this day, whenever things go better than expected she responds with joy that lasts for a very long time. It is such a pleasure to be around someone that is genuinely thankful, grateful, giving and loving. A few weeks ago I was nannying a girl and my boyfriend came over to help make dinner. While we were eating, she dropped her bowl and it shattered, so I freaked out and ran to the kitchen to get paper towels. Without even being asked, he cleaned up the shards of bowl and got her out of her chair and to the carpet so she wouldn't cut her bare feet and had her go upstairs to change clothes so the food wouldn't stain. I've never seen him take charge of a situation like that, and I found myself just watching him and thinking, this is amazing. He's so good under pressure, which I'm not. It proved to me that his caring isn't an act. It's him. Plus, he's gonna be a great dad. That much is pretty clear. If something comes up and you have to cancel, they're understanding. If it's a once in a blue moon type thing. If someone's cancelling every date you have, that should be a red flag for you, not them. Also taking you into consideration when buying major things. When we were like 6 months into dating, my SO was buying new furniture for the living room and asked me a million questions about what I thought. I pointed out it was his money and his house, so it was up to him. He made it very clear it was basically something we would be living on for the next several years, so it mattered what I thought it should look like, and I should have just as much say as picking it out. I ended up getting to pick most of it out because my opinion was so important to him and he trusted my taste. Finding ways to help you get through tough experiences in life. Example, my father passed away a few days before Christmas when I was a teenager. Since then, I've had a hard time enjoying that time of year, even in the presence of family. Years later, my girlfriend decorated my apartment while I was at work with Christmas stuff and surprised me when I came home. When I asked her why she did it, she said that she knew this time of year was difficult for me and thought that doing this would help me with the grieving process and to get back into the spirit of Christmas. She's now my fiancé and I couldn't be more happy. 1. Early on a month or two in, we had an issue that could have blown up. We talked openly and honestly. Mad resolved it by talking. Crazy. I came from a crappy marriage, and so did she, with fighting and lies. 3 years later we are honest, open and talk about what bothers us and work together. Even through some brutal stuff. 2. I'm super cheesy. She always laughs. 3. She loves my kids unconditionally as I do hers. 4. Trees. We love plants and trees. We met later in life going back to school. Odd common interests. We spend hours in the forest hiding plants and bugs. Geeking out together was the most amazing green flag. 5. Sex. Compatible, honest, open, naughty, a little freak in both of you comes out. 6. Acknowledging your baggage and shortcomings. She knows hers, I know mine. Own that shit and work on that crap. 7. She listens to hear and understand, not to reply. She tries to hear where I'm coming from, and it makes me want to do the same. 8. She's a hot 5 feet 11 blonde. That is a total green flag. Maybe even a checkered flag. Not agreeing on everything, but still having balanced discussions about it. I've been in a relationship where disagreements ended in stupid squabbles, and I've been in a relationship where we agreed on literally everything, so when we did have issues, we didn't know how to fight. My current boyfriend and I agree on a lot of things, but the few times we do disagree, we have balances debates. Because of this, the times I've done something crappy, or he accidentally says something too far, we are able to discuss it no problem. It's such a relief. Also the times you both die from laughter over stupid things one of you did. When they can talk about and resolve a serious issue without dismissing it altogether or turning it into an attack. My previous SO would deflect any attempt at discussing a relationship issue or long-term future plans with UN ending. It's fine and stop worrying comments until I dropped it. There's nothing wrong in my books with making a little joke here and there to alleviate tension or double checking if there's perhaps a better way or time you could be having the discussion, and you should never assume that your partner magically knows that you're wanting to be serious, but a relationship can't evolve in my opinion without a willingness and ability to stop beating around the bush and have a serious chat when necessary. Respecting the rest of your life. I'm a single parent, and so my single lady life and my home life are very different. When someone takes the time to say, what would it take if I wanted to go to the beach with you for a few days, it means more to me than asking if I want to go to the beach for a weekend, because it shows they know they are only a fraction of my time. Being willing to meet your friends, and being willing to introduce you to those. I won't freak with someone who won't meet my friends, or gets weird about me meeting those even in a casual situation. That special kind of distracted absent-minded cuddling where you're doing something else, or watching something else, and then 10 minutes later you realize they're stroking your hand. When you are trying to quit a bad habit or maybe addiction and slip up, but she encourages you by telling you how strong you are for making it this far, and that she believes in you. When she offers to split some meals and events costs, because she wants it to be an equal partnership. When you are overwhelmed from a bad day or depression and breakdown, and she just holds you, and never once stops being a gentle support. When she tries to learn more about your hobbies and passions, because she sees how happy it makes you. When she remembers little things, and goes above and beyond to see you smile. When she always asks how your day was, no matter how long you've been together, and takes an active interest in it. When she laughs at your jokes, no matter how silly or half-assed they were, with a real laugh, and not a sarcastic one. When she sees you at your weakest and points out all the positive things about the situation. When she comes to you first and foremost after a bad day, and never raises her voice or takes it out on you, but instead just lets you hold her. When she is capable of compromising and talking out a disagreement instead of fighting about who's wrong or right. When she looks at you like you're the most precious thing in her life. When you can just enjoy the presence of each other in silence as you watch the clouds or stars at night. I'll be proposing May 19th. I'm truly the luckiest man in the world, and she is truly the most amazing person to ever enter my life. I was never much of a religious man, but she makes me feel blessed. This is going to sound really weird, but he didn't make my skin crawl. I have self-esteem issues, to put it mildly, and previously, if a guy I liked showed any interest in me, I would immediately assume there was something wrong with them, and they'd start to make my skin crawl. My SO was the first person I didn't feel this with. I actually wanted to spend time with him. I went on holiday about 6 weeks after we got together, and I missed him so much it actually hurt. We've been together 6 years now, and while we have our ups and downs, I love him more than I ever thought possible. He's my soulmate. Before I fell in love with my husband, we were in the same drama class in high school. I used to think he was kind of a loser. I thought he was nice, but quiet. maybe a little boring. We had an assignment to write and perform our own monologue. Well, he went up and performed a monologue from the perspective of Chrono from Chrono Trigger. I adored that game and grew up with a ton of other video games that were considered old school at the time. Ever since I learned about that similarity between us, it changed how I felt about him forever. He became a good friend, and 3 years later, I fell for him during a party. It turns out that he had feelings for me ever since that drama class. Like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.